Good morning, Patrick here from Complete Health. And unfortunately, I got some sad news this week. So my car, which I've only owned for about 3.5 years, unfortunately failed its MOT this week. And my mechanic came in yesterday and he's been playing with it all week. He's just left it at the back of the garage. He's been working on it in all of his spare time to see if they could fix the problem. Car is officially gone. Now, interestingly enough, that I looked after this car really, really well. However, this really reminds me of how a lot of people look after their health. Now, I bought this car. It had, I think it was about 3 or 4 previous owners. And I remember taking it in for its first service and MOT. And essentially, he had to change all of the filters. He had to completely drain all of the oil. He had to completely change all of the spark plugs. Why? Because the person hadn't serviced the car for about 4 years. And it's interesting because people do the same thing with their health. We ignore a problem for an excessive period of time. And as a result, what ends up happening is the problem starts to build. And a really good example of this is degeneration in a joint. Now, almost everyone knows someone that has osteoarthritis. And osteoarthritis is one of those things that starts to occur over time. You can almost imagine it a little bit like a car. It's the rust building up, or the bike with the rust building up. That the longer you leave it out in the rain with the oil off, the more the rust starts to occur. However, if you oiled that chain early, or you oiled that car and serviced it early, the likelihood of having a problem later down the line significantly reduces. And most of us understand this as far as the concept with our cars and stuff are concerned, but so many of us actually forget this concept when we start to apply it to our own physical bodies. That if we start to abuse the way that our body starts to work, then we'll start to see changes in the way things function. In the same sense, if you put the wrong oil in your car and you put the wrong petrol in your car and you fail to service it and you drive it like a nutter, the likelihood is that car is never going to exceed 100,000 miles. Whereas I had another car that I used to drive, very well looked after, full service history, was serviced, it was used as a company car, was doing long commutes, had high mileage, but actually the engine lasted significantly longer and stronger than my current car now. Why? Well, the only difference is that one was well looked after and one was not. And if we look at our bodies in exactly the same way, and we think of stuff like the oil as the food that we're putting into our bodies, and the service history, a little bit like the exercise that we should be doing, and then we should be getting like an MOT, which is a checkup from our doctors, which isn't necessarily always done in this country, but is there options for us to get our health checked somewhere within the UK? And there are multiples of doctors and functional medicine doctors and chiropractors and osteopaths and physiotherapists that would do a maintenance-based check and a health check on someone. In fact, I know because we do it within our clinic. We do free spinal posture analysis. Why? Because when we see people change in their biomechanics, what we know is true, that with changes in biomechanics, we're more likely to see degenerative processes take place. We're more likely to see tendinitises take place. We're more likely to see disc bulges and sciatica start to occur. Why? Because the tissues are loaded in aberrant patterns, so therefore they start to wear and friction, and if they tear far enough, they'll start to produce pains, problems, inflammation, whatever. And so this is really, it's always a great concept when something like this happens to me in my life, e.g. something like my car breaks down, because I always sit back and ask the question and go, yeah, what could have been done here? And it's an expensive lesson to learn. Unfortunately, like I say, it wasn't my car for the 3 years prior. And obviously I had it checked over by a mechanic, but they obviously missed taking the whole engine apart. And when they did first take the engine apart, they realized it just hadn't been serviced. Engine runs smooth. It worked for about 2 years, really, really well. And then, like I say, the emissions have just gone way, way over. And now it's going to be a bit of a problem. So look after your body. And I always ask this question. Whenever I have these kinds of problems, I always ask this question, is if you only ever had one car in your whole entire life, if you only ever had one car in your whole entire life, would you service it implicitly, put in the good fuel, make sure you bought the expensive oil, the expensive parts, or would you put in the cheap, like cruddy engine parts, the Chinese imitations, the whatever? And the reality is true is if you had to make your car last for the 80 years of your life, you would look after it implicitly, change things as early as possible, because you would want to make sure that that thing is not going to blow up. Just saying. So why do we treat our bodies differently? Why do we put in the cruddy fuel? Why do we put in the cheap processed foods, etc.? So just some food for thought. Hopefully, fingers crossed, my new car is going to be with me by the end of the week. So yeah, it's an exciting time. However, like I say, not an ideal situation, but it's going to be fun to have a new car again. Patrick here from Complete Health. If you have any questions, or maybe you do need some advice on your health, leave us a message, leave us a comment. I try to answer all comments and messages on our page, but just obviously be patient with me if we do not answer. Just send us a private message. I'll always try and get back to people. Patrick here from Complete Health, and we'll speak to you again tomorrow. Take care for now.